Hello viewers, friends, subscribers, it's AG. Being the introspective guy that I am, I started thinking about why video games are so important to me, how they influence my life, and why I enjoy them so much. Well, it all started way back when Mom and Dad brought back a Nintendo Entertainment System in 1986. Trying to remember my early childhood is kind of difficult for me. I mean, I try really hard, but no matter how much I try, it seems like I should probably remember more than I should, but I don't. I don't know, but I do remember playing video games like Super Mario Bros., Super Mario Bros. 2, Duck Hunt, Hogan's Alley, and The Legend of Zelda. Well, better yet, my grandma especially remembers that I played Zelda. Every time my grandma would see me, whether it be visiting her or her visiting me, she'd always ask me if I played Zelda. And she would recall times that she'd watch me play Zelda, and I don't remember these times, and I wish I did, but she's like, yeah, you would be playing it, and I would just sit back and watch, and I don't even think she understood what was going on screen while I was destroying evil monsters and exploring dungeons, but she knew that I was playing Zelda, and she'd always ask about that, and in a way, that was satisfying for me. As for my parents, I recall playing Jack Nicklaus Golf, Duck Hunt, and Hogan's Alley with my dad. He was really big with shooting games and golf games. Every time we went to Blockbuster, we'd always rent a different golf game because the NES had plenty. And I know the Jack Nicklaus one was one of his favorites that we actually rented a couple of times. And as for my mom, she played video games too, sorta. She played Super Mario Bros. Just like anybody else would, and she enjoyed actually Super Mario Bros. 2 even more. She played that almost all the time, it seemed like. But the video game that she liked the most was Tetris. So every time I was playing my Game Boy, she would always ask, "Oh, can I play Tetris when you're done?" And you know, I'd give it to her, and she'd be off and playing Tetris for before bed or something like that. So my family, I'm not going to say my family were gamers, but they liked video games. They wouldn't really admit it, but they liked video games. Now when my parents split up, my sister, my mom, and I moved in with my grandparents, the same grandma that would always ask me if I played Zelda. And video games for me became more than just something I did sometimes. Like in my early childhood, it became my main hobby, as in it was my escape. It was a way for me to indulge in another world where I can save the world and slay monsters and become a ninja or fly an airplane or shoot some ducks and maybe a condescending dog too, because I really hate that dog in Duck Hunt. And video games became a part of me, especially during that early time, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. That's when it really started, when it was just like, school, homework, video games, school, homework, video games. We've got some cartoons sprinkled in there and, usual kid stuff. But that was like my main thing. It was like, it became a part of me. Now, video games are such a big part of my life that I'd love to share it with others. I mean, especially my friends. I would bring the instruction manuals to Mega Man. I remember vividly, kindergarten, first grade, I'd bring the instruction manuals to Mega Man 2 or Mega Man 3, Mega Man 4. I just remember those the most because I remember just bringing those instruction manuals, showing them to my friends, and showing them which Robot Masters Wily came out with next. And we'd play Mega Man like on the playground, and my friends would, pretend they're Robot Masters, and one guy would be Mega Man, and, we'd actually know which Robot Master could kill the other Robot Master, with which weapon they had, kind of thing. And, if one kid didn't agree with that, we'd have to, argue with them. Like, no, that's how it happens in the game. Like, this weapon kills you. And, that kind of thing. And, of course, whoever was Mega Man just got shot at the most. Now, as a kid, I really loved to draw. And I would draw Mega Man characters all the time. I think even to this day, I probably can draw Drill Man perfectly. Magnet Man, too. Because those were my two favorite Robot Masters of all time. And the funny thing is, I think they were my favorite just because they were red, and red's my favorite color. I remember one time in first or second grade, we had to draw a timeline of what we wanted to be when we grew up. And at the end of my timeline, when I was older, I wanted to be the best video game player of all time in the world. Big aspirations, right? I mean, I was always going high, shooting for the stars. That was always me. And I think the main reason for that, being the best video game player of all time, was because during that time I saw the movie The Wizard, and I remember Man, if that kid could be the best video game player, I could totally be the best video game player. I mean, when I've played Super Mario Bros. 3, it wasn't that hard. I'll be fine. Now, Mario and Nintendo were really big with me growing up. I mean, obviously, because they still are, right? But I had Mario Brothers lunchbox, I had the calendar, I had the bed sheets with the pillowcase and everything. You name it. I was seriously that kid. I love video games so much, I wanted people to know. It was something that gave me an identity that people can relate to, because it was easy to make friends. Like, when you love video games and you love Nintendo, I mean, who doesn't like Nintendo, right? I mean, it's nothing like today. If you liked Nintendo and you liked video games, well, so your friends did too, and you could share that with each other. They had different favorite games, you had different favorite games, and heck, you could even trade games and borrow each other's games, because we all had the same console. The big thing I wasn't really happy with Nintendo back then was, I remember thinking this very, very vividly when I was a kid. Why aren't there more action games? Like, games where I can just go around and shoot people. Or games that you can go around and fight. Okay, let me explain this so I don't sound like a psychopath. I really loved movies of the 1980s. Die Hard, Tango and Cash, RoboCop. Now, these movies had action, they had shooting. I mean, I was really big in those violent action movies of the 80s. Really big. So, when I would go play my video games, that experience didn't match up. It wasn't the same. So I was kind of thinking, well, I had Double Dragon and Ninja Gaiden and RoboCop the game and games like that, but they weren't at the level that I kind of wanted the violence to be. And it's kind of weird to think about that, because it's almost like a tamer version of what I was seeing in the movies. I'm like, I want something with more action, and the NES wasn't capable of it at that time. Then in the early 90s, 2 video games hit the arcades that would change my gaming life forever: Street Fighter II and Mortal Kombat.